Здравейте, скъпи приятели! Днес ще бъде много интересен епизод, много емоционален бих казала, защото съм с едно момиче, всъщност момиче вече майка на 2 деца, което е открило своя път към България отново, пътя на кръвта, пътя към корените. Тя е дъщерята на световно известният режисьор Кочев, който е с български корен. И тя самата е също режисьор, сценарист, актриса. Ще водим разговора на английски, но разбира се, с български субтитри. Alex, I'm so happy for you to be here today.
Thank you for having me. And разбираш малко. Разбираш малко.
You know, I was actually expecting for you to understand a little bit Bulgarian, but having an interview completely in Bulgarian would have been too difficult for you,
Yes,
right?
it would be at this point. Let's have another discussion in 5 years when I've studied my Bulgarian and I will be able to answer maybe 1 or 2 of your questions back in Bulgarian.
I think that you're actually a quick learner. I saw how, like an expert, you ordered mekiti 2 days ago.
Yes, I know this sounds so cheesy in a lot of ways, but I enjoy a lot of your traditional dishes like mekitsi, banitsa, sermi. I mean, I grew up actually, my dad, bop, all these things. Like, everyone thought it was so funny that I knew what bop was when I came, but I grew up eating this food because my dad's Bulgarian and he kind of brought his own cultural appreciation into our home.
This is not cheesy, let me tell you. This is extremely charming because your dad was actually born in Canada, from Bulgarian descent, obviously. But he says in so many interviews that I watched that he is Bulgarian from Plovdiv.
Yeah.
And that's so wonderful.
Yes.
Not many people do that.
He really had a strong Bulgarian identity. I grew up really anyone who would ask me, because I look maybe ethnically ambiguous a little bit. So, what is your ethnicity? Where are you from?
Well, your mother is Chinese.
Yes. But they see, but she doesn't look entirely Chinese. She looks like something else, or they think I don't know, whatever they think that I am.
Chinese, European,
yeah,
Chinese.
European or no, like Native American, Brazilian, Cuban.
Wow, I wouldn't think of Cuban.
I've gotten so many different strange things I wouldn't even associate with myself, but whatever people see. And I always I would say I'm half Bulgarian, half Chinese. I wouldn't say, I'm Canadian, or I wouldn't even say I'm American. I always talked specifically to the ethnic identity that I kind of...
So you consider yourself Bulgarian and Chinese?
Yes, the mix.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. You can have this broad vision of thinking of yourself in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people, especially when I was younger, they're like, Bulgaria, everyone knows where China is, but people didn't know where Bulgaria was. So
you would have to explain.
I'd have to do a little geography lesson, but that's okay. Now people are a bit more educated, but still the United States is not known for knowing the map quite well.
Well, I know. I was living a few years in the States, so all the time I would have to explain, it's Bulgaria, Europe, not Bulgaria, Arizona, for instance.
Oh, interesting. Or Bulgaria in South America, and they would confuse it with Bolivia.
Yes, that has happened to me as well. When people thinking that Sofia was the capital of Romania, for instance.
Oh.
But where exactly were you born?
I was born in Los Angeles.
Angeles.
I grew up very much like a Hollywood, young life.
Hollywood type childhood.
Yes, terrible.
That's what I was going to ask you. Was it a happy childhood? But no, it was a terrible.
No. The childhood was like any other childhood, which has its positives and minuses. But in terms of the atmosphere of growing up in Hollywood, I would say that I went to the top private schools. Steven Spielberg's daughters went to my high school. Just with the film kind of upper echelon of people, or just of Los Angeles. So I think you understand that is not the most wonderful social atmosphere, because there's a lot of competition, a lot of snobbery, hypocrisy, and I'm certainly grateful for the opportunities that I was given and this wonderful education. However, the superficiality of the town made me not want to be a filmmaker at all. I used to tell people, no, I'm not going to film. I don't want to do it. Definitely don't want, because that's what I associated with film, was Hollywood, and realizing once you get older, you realize that's just a part of the film industry, and that's not the entire film industry.
Of course, there's a lot of charm, there's a lot of actually art involved. Your father was 55 when he had you, right?
Yes.
And he was already world famous. What was it being the daughter of Ted Kotcheff? Did you realize it as a kid? The full expense of that being the daughter of Ted Kotcheff.
No, it's just your dad, you know.
It's your dad.
He's like the guy who, you know, wakes up and, I don't know, he yawns and, you know, sneezes, and he's just a normal human being. However...
And you have breakfast together, and he drives you to school. Did he actually have time to drive you to school?
My mom was more of the person who did most of the practical things. But
she was the caretaker.
But my dad read stories to us. That's what my mom said she had my father do with us. Like he read us beautiful stories, you know, when we were a child. I loved it growing up. And Oscar Wilde, his short stories, I read when I was like 6 years old, because my dad would read them to me and he would start crying, and you know.
Really?
Yeah, he was he's very emotional in an artistic sense. Yes, if he reads a beautiful story, it brings him to tears. And so I definitely grew up with some sensibility of, you know, storytelling and art in a way.
Storytelling is so important in filmmaking, in art.
Yes.
If you have a good story, that's the best beginning.
Yes, exactly.
And your brother, his name is Thomas, right?
Yes.
Thomas, he's also into your sphere, circle, so to say. I mean, he writes film music, doesn't he?
He's written for my film, The Planters. He did the music for. He was the composer. He's done previous films that I've done, and also right now he is working on the composition team for Black Panther. He just did the newest Black Panther, and so he's on the team of composers who are working on that. Yes.
I mean, that's huge. Black Panther is like a world hit.
Yes.
It's a huge success, and he's one of the composers.
Yes, he's...
kudos to your brother.
Yes,
I mean, what can I say?
Talented brother. I always tell people we both played piano, but I quit when the teacher was like, okay, you know, he's younger than me, but he eclipsed me in his skills, and the teacher was like, okay, so... You know, you're
try something else?
Something else for you, like do sports or something. Maybe piano's not for you. So I ended up, even though I love the piano now, but I ended up quitting.
But your father, didn't he warn you? Because that happens a lot in artistic families, because you know how hard it is. Did he ever warn you, please, Alex, don't go into this, it's too much trouble?
No.
He didn't?
Nope.
He actually encouraged you to...
I would say, more of an encouragement. He always has asked, like, how can I help you? What can I do? He's always been helpful growing up, you know. Is there anything you need assistance with? And I try to tell him I kind of want to make my way, you know. It's important that as much as I appreciate the help and that he wants to provide, you as an artist or as a professional kind of want to find a way on your own.
But he's extremely proud of you, and that really struck me as something really positive. I was going through some interviews he gave, and also, he's active on his Facebook page, and he's talking a lot about my daughter, Alexandra, and he likes to use your full name, Alexandra,
oh, yes.
and what she does, and he's very much proud of you. You can tell a lot about a father's support from his interviews and from his presence in internet. He
is very proud. I think my interest in film surprised him, because it kind of came a little bit from, like, I always said I didn't want to. I took a different career path at the beginning out of college. And it's not like I didn't know when I was 12 years old that I wanted to be a filmmaker, like some people do. I didn't even know at 18. Kind of discovered it in
and what happened? One day, all of a sudden, just like that?
I ended up, getting politically active in kind of earth protection movements. And I started just taking a camera to help document it. And I realized I love being behind the camera.
Wow.
And that started the process of realizing I love storytelling. And then I wrote a children's book. And
yes, we are colleagues. I know you wrote a children's
Oh, no, that one didn't even get published. But I realized in the element of storytelling that I started to enjoy it, and just kind of fell into place very naturally.
You were behind the camera, you were filming all these protests, and then you got arrested.
Oh, yes.
In Ohio, of all places.
Yes, I told you this, yes.
Yes, you told me this, and I hope you don't mind me telling it in front of the people, because it's a wonderful story.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you, a nice girl, behind the bars in Ohio.
I know. And then when it got published in the newspaper, in their local newspaper, all the people who got arrested, and of course it says Alexandra Kocев, Beverly Hills, because we're in Ohio, so it showed where everyone is from, and it was just very funny, that whole time in my life.
Crazy. High security.
Yeah, maximum security prison.
Because, they considered you extremely dangerous, I guess.
I know, I was not at all dangerous, I remember.
How come your father never actually taught you Bulgarian? And your mother Chinese? I mean, you were all the time speaking in English.
Yes,
home,
we
right?
spoke English at home. My mom spoke Chinese with her mother, but she grew up speaking English. She came to Canada when she was 2 years old, so English was, other than her home language, was her first language. And also she speaks Cantonese, which is not the Mandarin, is the kind of international language of China. And so, I don't think they chose not to teach us.
Well, maybe that was a little bit difficult, maybe?
Yeah, I think it is difficult, especially like your kids learning multiple languages at home. And my father only spoke Bulgarian with his mother and father, so when they passed, I think that was his Bulgarian kind of decreased in.
But right now, your husband, you have two sons. One is 4 years old and the other is a baby. He's 1 year old.
1 year old.
1 year old. And your husband is completely communicating with them in Bulgarian, right? So that they grow up bilingual.
Yeah, Milan talks to them only in Bulgarian. So I only speak in English and he only speaks in Bulgarian. So they learn both. Oh yeah, my 4-year-old his Bulgarian is amazing. It's maybe 10 times better than my Bulgarian. He's totally fluent.
Wow, next time you'll bring him to the studio. So we'll have this huge family gathering in КултурКаст. Tell me, there is a very funny story about your Serbian nanny. You had a Serbian nanny, right? And your father told her to...
Wait, what is this one? Tell me the story. Wait, which one? Was I telling you this?
Yes, you were telling me
The
this.
Serbian nanny?
You started using some curse
Oh,
words.
yes, this one, yes.
Remember that one?
No, but it wasn't a nanny.
God, I remember
it was
your
an actress.
stories. An actress?
No, it was,
Serbian
my parents were having a party at the house. I was a child. And my dad brought this Serbian actress to, where I was playing in the pool, and he's like, meet this woman, speak to her in Bulgarian, say something in Bulgarian, she'll probably understand. And I said the worst curse phrase in Bulgarian. It's like maybe 3 sentences long, and my dad and
yes, Bulgarians, we can curse.
You can curse, massive curses, and her mouth just dropped, and my father's mouth dropped, and he was like, why would you say that? That was the look he gave me. But I didn't really care, you're so young, you just think it's funny.
Yeah, the world is such a wonderful and secure place when you're a kid. It's really funny. One of the craziest stories I've heard, and that's why last night I was thinking that Bulgaria is it's a karma in your family. I mean, your father, born in Canada, Canadian Bulgarian movie director, goes to China, of all places, and of all the possible Chinese women, one of them greets him with Dobar Den, and it turns out to be your mom. And she used to be a gymnast and had been in Bulgaria training with Neshka Robeva. So there was the love story. They got married. But again, Bulgaria is the connection. Isn't that crazy?
It is the connection, yes. And this story, the Dober Den story, I have heard, but my dad is actually the one that ran after my mom in the hotel, and they're both Canadians. But I think ultimately she knew Bulgarian, and that's what surprised him when she said Dober Den. Yes.
And that's what maybe triggered.
Yes, absolutely, a connection for sure. I think Also, they both have immigrant experiences. I mean, they're obviously from different ethnic backgrounds, but when you move to a new country, I think that's something you can bond over, being a foreigner in a new land.
Yes, and she feels strongly about Bulgaria from what I've heard. She loves Bulgaria.
Oh yeah, she does, yes. And I mean, she came for the festival 6 years ago.
To the Sofia Film
Festival, yes. And it was wonderful for her to be back. I think it was very special. She saw Neshka, they saw each other and met again, so it was a special time.
Now, tell me, What style of movie making is it that you actually want to immerse yourself in? What is your thing?
Yes.
And how does it differ from what your father does?
I would say I think my father, he doesn't really have, he's done so many different, this is what kind of makes him incredible in his skills. He can do a comedy, he can do a drama, any script he has been able to do. You know, he has his very famous film Weekend at Bernie's. It's a comedy in the U.S.
Yes,
And then but Rambo's an action film. And then his, the two films that were at Cannes or won the Berlin Award, The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz, that's kind of an art house film, a Canadian art house. So you really have the whole range that he did. And I think, but he did actually write a lot of his material. He had wonderful collaborators that he worked with, and maybe that's the difference. I would say that a lot of that between perhaps my father and I is that I plan on writing, everything really kind of comes from inside of me, and I hope to put it into the film format. Either it comes from me or working with material like adaptation, but I do want to do the writing, and I think that's integral to the process of making the film. I'm not really looking to be, not that I would be totally opposed to it if the right opportunity was put before me, but I'm looking to make my own material rather than be just work for hire.
And having more streamlined, maybe movies.
Yeah.
More directed towards, let's say, towards exploration of the human soul, the human experience.
I think so. I think I'd certainly want to focus on, I would say exploration, also something about the passage of going back to one's roots. I think this is what's inside of me. Yes.
I am sure that this path of the blood, this heritage thing is extremely important. The search for identity.
Yes.
It's extremely important to you. And it would make wonderful movies, wonderful art, because we are living in such a crazy world that we all want to, at least spiritually, emotionally, go back to the places where we feel safe and secure, places where we can feel at home in a way.
Yes, and I think there's so many people in the United States and Canada who aren't at home internally. They're lost. They don't know where they come from. You ask someone, in the average American, where is your ethnic heritage? Oh, I'm a European mutt. My grandfather was Italian, and I'm not sure where. I think I have Swedish on one side, and people really don't know where they come from. And I think there is a lost identity in the United States.
Lost identity, lost sense of belonging.
Yes.
And a huge amount of loneliness, don't you
I think loneliness, so it ends up in that loneliness gets translated into everyone seems very similar because they don't know what to do. So Americans start feeling we all look very different, but they end up kind of assuming an identity that seems quite similar to me. Even they don't retain a lot of the beautiful cultural lessons and story and lineage with them because it's been cut. It's been cut because they're now in this new land.
And the mass culture.
Yes, exactly.
And you don't like actually living so much in such a uniform society.
Yeah, not really. And I think going back to your point about, I'm mixed identity. So from a very young age, I realized I had to analyze who I was young because people say, in our country, it's so much about race and ethnicity that when people are always trying to peg you for, pigeonhole you for something, you have to kind of figure it out young, who you are younger. I don't know.
You landed in Bulgaria when you were 29. This is not so young.
No.
But you found something really peculiar. What did you feel when you landed in Sofia?
Oh, well, this might sound strange to people, but I was very excited to come here, just to go to the fatherland, know that my father's from here, but I didn't have really any expectations. I was just open. And the second the plane landed in Bulgaria, I got goosebumps all over my arms, all over my body, inside the airplane. And I remember the feeling exactly, and I don't know exactly what that means, but I think it was my body speaking to something.
Yeah, your ancestors speaking. Now I have the goosebumps. So, at 29, you suddenly discovered that this is the place where you want to be, because you confided in me, and now we are confiding it to our spectators, listeners, whatever, to our audience, that you want to eventually live in Bulgaria,
Yes.
to have your permanent address here.
Yes, I would. I certainly. I don't say this from bias. I believe Sofia is a near perfect city for me. I don't know for everyone, but for me, it's the coziness of the city, but also that it's like a capital. It has so much to offer, and
Culture and the human bonding.
yes, and maybe it is the Bulgarian connection or the story. I'm not really sure what it is, but I feel tied here, and I kind of like to go with my gut and how I feel. And I feel that this is the place I should be. So I don't want to question it too much.
And with your husband.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes you have to go with the flow, with your emotional flow and the heart. And no, it doesn't sound cheesy. Such karma things never sound cheesy. Tell me, you were told that you, by an astrologist, was it, that you are actually the missing link, that you are tying something missing in your family. You will explain it better than me. What was it exactly?
I spoke to an astrologer, kind of occultist friend of mine, and she told me that by coming to, I asked her, what, do you have any advice for, my trip to Bulgaria, anything I should think about? It was a very general thing. And she specifically said that you have a karmic tie that you are going to repair when a broken heart in your family lineage that you are going to repair when you go to Bulgaria. And I was like, what does that mean? I was like, what do I have to do? Do I need to bring something? Should I get something from there and connect? I don't know. Is it literal? I was taking this very seriously. And it's interesting how I ended up meeting my husband in Bulgaria. So logically. Yes, it's so strange. And I was not thinking that. I wasn't looking for a relationship or anything at that point.
Maybe you were thinking like inspiration, the food, nature, blah, blah, and all of a sudden you ended up with a Bulgarian husband.
Yes, I was actually thinking what spiritual ceremony should I try doing here? I really went...
Well, you did have your spiritual ceremony, your marriage.
Yes.
Which happened at the Antique Theatre in Plovdiv, right? And it was very much of a Thracian wedding.
Yes.
And it was close to the public, right? And there's one very peculiar detail. You were wearing a red veil. Why?
The red veil, well, we researched a lot of the traditional customs, like from back in the day. And clearly we're not living in a village, and I'm not walking through the village as they used to, a bride and the groom. And we read that the red symbolizes a protective element between bad energy on the day of a union. So that's that. I kind of wanted to stick to that. I don't understand why I would have a white one when I could have a red one. And also, we watched a film which I meant to send you, but
you send it.
Yes,
to me.
I will.
A very old
Bulgarian film, and I got inspiration from that and how she was dressed and kind of the energy of the whole union.
Wow. Was your father crying?
It's hard to, I was focused.
On your husband.
Yeah, I was a little focused there. But maybe if I should ask somebody, I think he was emotional. The photos that I saw, he looked very emotional.
I know he was very emotional when he received his Bulgarian ID.
Yes.
He was very emotional then at the interviews. And we have also published in Bulgarian his book, My Life in Film. I think in Bulgarian it's Моят живот в киното, published by Колибри publishers. Tell me, did you ever feel this sense of complete dissolving into the culture when you go to China? Of belonging? As strongly as you do in Bulgaria?
I think it's because I look more Chinese that I thought that I would feel more when I went there. I loved going to China. It was a beautiful experience, but I didn't quite feel as I did when I came here.
The spiritual connection is...
I think so. I mean, maybe there's some work I need to do there that perhaps I'm unaware of, but I felt that at the point in life, at 29 when I came here, the spiritual work needed to be done here.
And you realized something that we all know in Bulgaria, that we have one very special national treasure, and it's the Bulgarian baba.
Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, I have a wonderful mother-in-law. Milen's mother is absolutely kind of the caring, all-encompassing, warm person I'm very glad that my sons get to have as a grandmother.
It's a very Balkan thing, not just in Bulgaria, also in Greece, but it's not baba there, it's yaya, also in Serbia. Well, I'm sure that it's like that in Turkey, but we have this close connection in the families, which I think, at least while I was studying in the States, I did not notice such, between all the generations, such close connection, like the baba coming to take care of the kids all the time and
that is true.
Stuff like that.
I would say, I don't know, I can only speak for what I've experienced, but I feel very lucky that when I look at some of my, peers in the United States, I don't know if it's the American mentality that's more individualistic, and the grandmas and grandpas want to kind of go on cruises and go travel when
that's how I
they're
imagine.
65. And I mean, I guess I understand it, but I feel grateful that my husband's mother really wants to spend time with my children. And also my mother also spends a lot of time with my kids in Los Angeles. But in terms of the Bulgarian connection, I'm very, very grateful that
So we have two babas, two national treasures. Your father is 91. I was going to say 21. Maybe his spirit is like 21 and the mistake was not accidental. But he's 91. He'll be turning 92 soon.
Yes.
And he's still extremely active. He writes poetry, right?
Yes.
And does he still, because a few years ago he wanted to make this huge movie. It was a dream of his about our Tsar Boris III and saving the Bulgarian Jews.
Yes.
And at that time I think he needed $12 million.
Yes.
Does he still want to do this movie, or it's not on the agenda anymore?
I think he's focusing more on poetry, but I think he would love to see that film made. He would love to see a film on Boris, and he's a big, he's very much into history, especially in Bulgarian history, and feels proud of certain elements of it. So I think he would love to see that film made, but it won't be made by him. He's focusing on poetry. And
could it be made by you?
Perhaps, we'll see. Yes, there's nothing.
I think that's a logical outcome of the whole situation. I mean,
Maybe.
you still have the drive, the youth, the energy, the time ahead of you to
Yes, absolutely.
to make such projects.
If it ended up working out as such, I would be honored to do such a story.
And now, the actual purpose of your visit here is the Sofia Film Fest, right?
Yes.
What is your role in the fest?
Well, I will be presenting my film, The Planters, on the 26th.
Which is a Sunday.
Which is a Sunday. And I also will be on the international jury this year, looking at the Bulgarian short films and the 12 international first and second feature films.
So you're also in the jury.
Yes, the jury.
I know that The Planters, the movie, I mean, the crew was so minimized. I mean, it was you, there were two acting girls, you, your colleague, and you were also the director. You wrote the screenplay. Actually, you did everything, just two girls, right?
It's a strange concept, yes. My creative partner, Hannah, and I, we wanted to make a feature film, but realized, like, who's going to just give us all this money? We haven't shown that we can work together. We've done our separate stuff, but as best friends and collaborators, we wanted to prove a vision for a project. And so we said, okay, let's just go into the desert. We'll rent an Airbnb and we'll shoot something. Because we both know how to shoot. We can run sound. And
that was before you had kids.
Oh, yes. This is not
because
something...
Because now it would have been a little bit...
Near impossible.
Yeah,
certainly for the length of time it took. And so we shot it and realized, oh, wow, this is actually turning out pretty good. And we ended up running a Kickstarter campaign and raising money to shoot the feature film. And
it was already at the Riverdance Festival, right?
No. It took us 2 years after fundraising the money. And then we had to fundraise more because it took us longer than we thought because we had no crew. It was just the two of us doing everything. And we were completely unrealistic about the time period it would take. And doing all the acting and everything in 40 degrees Celsius temperatures. I mean, it was just an insane kind of undertaking. And then, then we ended up finishing the film and premiering at Raindance Film Festival in London and winning the grand prize there, and that kind of just started everything. It was really surprising. We were shocked, so very surprised.
What was the feeling to be at the festival in London and winning the first prize with something that you thought was a girlish adventure?
Yes, I mean, eventually we knew we were quite proud of what we had accomplished, but I don't know, the feeling was just shock and excitement, I guess. Very simple kind of base emotions.
And what does your husband do?
Yes,
professionally.
Yes, Milen is also a filmmaker, and he also does translation interpreting work. So he speaks Russian, Bulgarian, English, and so he's really a jack of all trades, or a Renaissance man.
A Renaissance man.
Yes.
Are you going to work as a team in the future?
Oh yes, I love collaborating. I think we have a good balance between us, so we will be collaborating on film projects in the future. Hopefully, in the sense we'll be writing together. I'll direct something, he'll direct something, maybe we'll direct something together, who knows. But I feel like maybe you don't want to do too much together, because
because spend all the time and
absolutely
not have your personal space.
But then there's some elements that are nice to collaborate on. So
how did being a mother change your artistic views? Did it change them? What you want to do with art, with your own?
I certainly think being a mother changes the way you view the world. And so totally changes, transforms it. So that's obviously going to impact your art and kind of your knowledge of the world, and maybe perhaps what you want to express, and the desires and the fears that you have. Those become so heightened in motherhood,
Oh yes, the fears.
The fears. And yes, I think, so in that sense, I think it certainly has. We'll see how it affects my art. They're still quite young, but I already know it's affected me as an individual. So if by logic would affect what I make. Yes.
And my very last question: what are you working on right now, or hope to be working on right now?
Right now, I have a second feature in the U.S. in development, which is about a mother and daughter who move to a small town to open up a nail salon, and that nail salon is being taken over by a mining company. And I'm set to play the daughter, which was not intended a long time ago, but now since I'm, I act sometimes, I'm also supposed to be in that. And we're developing that project in the States, and here I'm also looking to develop Bulgarian projects as well, and really get connected back here.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Alex, again, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really loved being part of this conversation. Thank you. Thank you.
И така, днес ще си говорим за кино, по-точно за един филм, който може би разбуни духовете, те първа ще ги разбунва, ако изобщо имам някакъв опит в тези среди, културните, пък изобщо тези свързани с масовата публика. Бих нарекла дори ревюто ми тази чалга. Играта на думи е ясна, защото ще говорим за филма Чалга на Мариан Вълев. Той е режисьор, негов е и сценария. Това е един филм, който си мисля, че ще бъде възприят много полярно. От една страна тежките културтрегери, които предпочитат изкуство заради самото изкуство, веднага ще кажат, че филма не става. От 9 кладенеца, може би и 99 кладенеца ще донесат вода, за да обяснят как е твърде комерциален, пък едва ли не комерциален в България е равносилно на абсолютно не е талантлив и нескопосан, което разбира се не е така. Мисията на твореца, защото аз вярвам, че всеки творец има една такава мисия, тя е много точно дефинирана от Камю, е именно да буди обществото, да буди абсолютно всеки човек и да насочва мисленето му в определена посока. Всеки автор, независимо на какъв тип произведение, просто трябва да го прави според Камил, а в случая нашите мнения абсолютно съвпадат. Между другото, вероятно си спомняте, даже след като гледате КултурКаст, сигурно си спомняте, че и Сартър говореше за този тип ангажираност. Ангажираност към обществото, към проблемите на обществото. Така че аз не бих влязла в тези, между другото, рехави редици на хората, които моментално ще заклеймят филма, без дори да го гледат, защото ние това в България много го обичаме. Да кажем, че нещо не става, без да сме го гледали, без да сме го чели, без да сме влезли на тази изложба, изобщо да седим отстрани и да се държим като някакви много големи интелектуални тежкари и да казваме това да, това не. Та, в тези рехави редици на инквизиторите аз няма да вляза, защото въпреки своите кусури, всъщност въпреки единия кусур, за който ще поговоря малко по-късно, според мен Чалга е един въздействащ филм, един вълнуващ филм, в който Мариан Вълев не си е позволил да звучи като проповедник. Това, уважаеми зрители, слушатели на КултурКаст, е нещо изключително важно. Да създадеш продукт, който се взира, даже неудобно, неприятно, така навътре в язвите на обществото. То си е ужасно, нали, да се взираш в някакви марани, проядени, чак си го представям. И да не си позволяваш обаче да звучиш като проповедника, просто да показваш това, което се случва, да го показваш по един вълнуващ, макар че вълнуващ в случая може би не е точната дума, един стряскащ начин и да не звучи, че говориш от амвона. Чалга е неудобно кино. Чалга е неудобно кино именно защото от една страна показва реалността, в която сме затънали, пък много хора, според мен, биха предпочели да си зарият главата в пясъка и да не искат да прогледнат за тази реалност, въпреки че ще подарят бюст, нов бюст за дъщеря си за абитуриентската. Други хора, както казах, няма дори да гледат филма, веднага ще го отрекат заради тематиката, но според мен на публиката, непредубедената публика, ще се хареса. Аз съм човек, който не слуша Чалга. Не съм била на Чалга концерт, няма и да отида. Но това е филм, който всъщност не е концентриран върху Чалга музиката, той е концентриран върху Чалга начина на живот. И в този Чалга начин на живот влизат включително супер ефтините инфлуенсъри, целият този трънлив, разгулен, развратен път, до който стигаш до славата. Ние сме потопени в Чалга от всякъде, има такава и в човешките взаимоотношения. И отидох да гледам, между другото, съвсем самичка, без да карам някой да дойде с мен, да налагам своето желание да видя за какво аджеба и да реч. Отидох да гледам филма съвсем сама и изобщо не съжалявам. Филмът, както може да предположите, всъщност вие вече знаете от трейлера, тъй като трейлера се върти на доста места, изследва една тема, която е стара като света, някои биха казали дори, о боже мой, такова клише, но забележете, клишетата са такива именно по силата на своята истинност, която се е доказала във векове и хилядолетия. А за какво тук и да рече? За едно момиче без абсолютно никакви протекции, с бедно семейство, с доста, бих казала, в битов и всякакъв друг план елементарно семейство, баща алкохолик, майка, която махленски биха определили като простакеса, изобщо дълбоката провинция, едно наистина красиво момиче, прелесно красиво, въпреки че тя има огромни комплекси, тъй като не разполага с пищен бюст, даже е плоска като дъска и смята, че това е огромният проблем в живота и какъв парадокс, тъй като не е това проблемът ти. Та едно момиче, една провинциална пепеляшка, една провинциална, казвам го направо, проститутка, която има доста ангелско излъчване и иска да пробие. Иска да стане славна, популярна фолк певица си мисли, че единственият проблем в живота й е именно липсата на този така лелеян, желан бюст, който пластичната хирургия може, разбира се, хей така да й набави. Това е една много тъжна история всъщност. Зависи как ще я погледнете. Тя е тъжна не просто ако имате дъщеря, аз имам син, не е необходимо да имате деца. Тя е тъжна за всеки човек, който е потопен в това българско общество, а ние всички сме, освен ако не живеем в някакви измислени кули от слонова кост, и особено пък в творчеството, ако сме някакви кабинетни писатели, друг тип творци. Филмът е брутален. Брутален със своята откровеност, със своята искреност. Има някаква страхотна ирония в това, че в крайна сметка това момиче, тази провинциална проститутка, така и не получава пари за своите секс-услуги, с които да си така тунингова външността. А още по-безумното е, че тя всъщност може да пее. Тя има страхотен глас и въпросният бюст изобщо ни е нужен. Моята забележка към филма, тъй като съм човек, който си изкарва хляба с думи, с боравене с думи, моята забележка е чисто към репликите в някои моменти от филма, към боравенето с езика, към сценария. Защото има мигове, има сцени и ако още не сте гледали Чалга, аз препоръчвам да гледате този филм. Така ще ви разбърка съвестта, може би, до някъде. Ще ви накара да се замислите за ред неща като потребители на определен тип култура. Всъщност, кусурите на филма са свързани с една плакатност на определени фрази, които тук-там се използват. И аз знам, че Мариан Вълев се е стремил да покаже клишетата, в които ние всички сме потопени. Те са навсякъде и все пак на моменти ми беше трудно да преглътна, въпреки огромната безалкохолна напитка и пуканките, с които влязох в киното. Беше ми трудно да преглътна някакви плакатни фрази, като никога не се отказвай от мечтите си, винаги следвай и мечтите си, няма да е все така. Изобщо някакви клишета и едни фейсбукарски мъдрости, на които мястото им не беше там. Но в следващия миг историята пак те поглъщаше, а историята е хубава и тя не е толкова история за този разгулен и развратен път към славата, а за едно приятелство. Защото това момиче, Барбара, между другото, изиграно великолепно от Цветелина Стоянова, това момиче, което иска да бъде фолк-певица, иска да бъде певица, се среща с един неочакван ангел под прикритие. Тези не се виждат на пръв поглед, защото не са от най-примерните хора, неочакваните ангели под прикритие. В случая е едно момиче, една крадла с биполарно разстройство. Роза / Кристина, която се представя за Роза, чието дете е отнето от социалните, и тази крадла решава да помогне на нашата героиня да си набави парите и да си сложи бюст. В крайна сметка тези две момичета разбират по този път, че много по-важно от някакви мимолетни стремежи е именно това приятелство, всичко това, което свързва хората, тънката златна нишка на емпатията, без която всъщност не можем. Защото именно без емпатията, именно без тези нишки на приятелството, животът ни, приятели, наистина става абсолютна чалга. Трябва ни тази топлина в общуването, защото иначе чалгата превзема всичко. Пак казвам, чисто сценарно аз намирам своите пробойни във филма, но браво на Мариан Вълев, защото като цяло сценарият е великолепен. Нито веднъж той не размахва пръст, нито веднъж, и смятам, че всички играят така много ударно и като за последно. И защото казват, че дяволът е в детайлите, според мен Господ е в детайлите, особено пък в творчеството. Тук като че ли цялата пирамида на актьорския състав, целият каст е обърнат с главата на опки. Това е чудесно. Между другото, в ролята на неочаквания ангел на крадвата с биполярно разстройство е Елеонора Иванова. Всички се сещате за драматичната история на нашата художествена гимнастичка. Ей богу, това момиче играе великолепно, без да бъде актриса. Ще бъдете наистина очаровани от играта й. Това е според мен голямата изненада на филма и тук подозирам, че режисьора наистина си е поиграл доста. А може би самата тя е родена за актриса. И защото заговорих за детайлите, както виждате в двете водещи роли, момичетата не са мега известни, но от всякъде, изобщо тъч линията, от всякъде режисьора се е подковал с наистина страхотни имена, които проблясват много за кратко, но създават целият този амбианс на филма и дават усещането за една много тежка продукция. И тук съм си ги записала, за да не взема да забравя някого. Имаме Кръстю Фазанов, Стефан Мавродиев, като вече един от най-есен от живота и битието бивш учител, Виктор Калев, Жана Яковлева, която се появява като майката на провинциалната проститутка, но точно с 2-3 реплики така ти се приплаква от тази понякога толкова погрешно трогателна майчина обич. Имаме Любо Нейков, който е таткото алкохолик, Димитър Рачков, който наистина влиза с 3 реплики, ама толкова на място. И имаме певицата Лора Караджова като една уморена, ама наистина уморена от живота, от пеенето, от институционализираната проституция в тези чалга среди певица. И е много така запомняща се сцената, в която вече много известната Лора Караджова като фолк певица седи в един известен столичен хотел, седи на земята, надига директно от бутилката уиски. Гледайте този филм, гледайте, защото ако сте от чувствителната публика, наистина ще излезете дълбоко замислени. Ако сте от хората, чието живот е всъщност чалга, ще излезете щракайки с пръсти от кинозалата, но всеки ще открие нещо за себе си в този филм. И това беше всичко от днешният епизод на КултурКаст. Желая ви повече красота и по-малко чалга.